The Twins season opens up tomorrow. I know that might come as a surprise to a bunch of people who have realized the lack of hype around this team outside of maybe Will Ragatz, who is a baseball savant and nerd and is excited as all heck to get the MLB season going. But the Twins season opens up tomorrow in St. Louis. Pablo Lopez versus former Twins pitcher Sonny Gray on the mound, taking that one at 3:15 p.m. Central Time. So let's jump into it. Season preview, if you will. Not a whole lot of offseason moves, as unfortunate as that is for the Twins. Will, what is your general anticipation for this season? We'll go around the horn. Will, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I always am gonna get excited and kind of talk myself into the Twins being good, and it wouldn't be any fun to come into the year without any sort of optimism. With that said, it is a team that finished the year 12-27 last season, and then didn't really do anything in the offseason. They're kind of just running it back. They added a few ancillary pieces with Ty France and Harrison Bader and Danny Coulomb. They lost a couple pieces as well, Max Kepler, Carlos Santana, guys like that. But it's basically the same core. So it's going to come down to, can their guys stay healthy and produce at the level that they're capable of? And that's always going to be the question. Royce Lewis starting the year on the IL, along with a couple other guys, Brooks Lee, Brock Stewart. Not exactly the most auspicious way to kick things off, but Byron Buxton had a great spring, and knock on wood for right now is healthy. Carlos Correa is healthy. The Twins pitching rotation, 1 through 5, could be a top 10 rotation, maybe even better. In baseball, you've got a bullpen that might be up there as one of the very best in baseball, with Griffin Jackson and Joan Duran leading the way. So I am buying in. I love baseball season. Baseball was always my sport growing up. It's a fun time of year. I'm excited to get to Target Field. And it helps the Twins that they play in a division where there are no real powerhouses. You've got one horrific team in the White Sox who will probably not lose quite as many games this year, but and then the Royals, Tigers, and Guardians are all kind of in the same mix as the Twins, where if one of those teams can get to even like 90 wins, that might be enough to do it in the Central. So it should be fun. Hoping for good health. Lots to discuss and dive into, but I'm excited.
Joe, anticipation, level of excitement for this season, your optimism, where's it at heading into the 2025 season?
I have some optimism because I think when healthy, they're a very competitive team. At the end of the day, though, it's like the Dodgers are out there and nobody else matters. So baseball to me has kind of died. It's hard to get excited about a team that you just know probably isn't going to be good enough to make some noise in the playoffs. And then at the same time, you try to talk yourself into it. You're like, hey, Joe, they have 3 Cy Young caliber starting pitchers if they're all rolling for a full season in Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober and Joe Ryan. They've got potentially the best bullpen in baseball, like Will mentioned. And then you have 4 guys in the lineup who you could argue could get MVP votes this year. If Matt Wallner hits a bunch of home runs and drives in a bunch of runs as the leadoff hitter, that could happen. Carlos Correa, if his feet don't bother him and he stays healthy and he hits like he has this spring, he could be an MVP vote getter. Byron Buxton, if he actually stays healthy at 31 years old, he could get MVP votes. And Royce Lewis, if his soft tissues get a little harder, he'll be okay too, and he could be an MVP vote getter. So there's a lot of things to get excited about if you actually still give a bleep about baseball. But I think most people are like me, where they're like, yeah, I didn't even realize it was late March. And I didn't realize the Twins were about to play a baseball game. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but in 24 hours, the Twins opened the regular season against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the vast majority of Twins fans still don't know where they're going to be able to watch the game. So tell me how I'm supposed to get excited about this team when there's so much strife about how to actually watch them and who's going to own them. I mean, it's a bad time to be a baseball fan. And now they're talking about salary caps and potential lockouts in 2026. And you know what? I feel like baseball's got to hit rock bottom, kind of like an addict, before it can get itself right. This is what needs to happen. So I think we're on our way to a hard landing, and it's not going to be good. I think there's going to be very few people at Target Field all season long. unless by some sort of miracle the Twins start like 50-10 and then everybody's on board. I'm just not feeling it, guys. And there's reasons to get excited, but there's too many reasons to keep us away from the game these days.
Tony, where do you stand? I think we have two different ends of the spectrum here between Will and Joe. Where are you on this vast excitement level for the 2025 Twin season?
Yeah, I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer like Joe, but I'm kind of leaning that way. It's as a casual baseball fan and casual Twins follower, I guess my whole life, where when I was younger, I loved the team and I loved following Carlos Gomez and Nick Punto and all those players, but it's just like there's not that much excitement going into the year. And health is always going to be a question with the roster that they have with Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Royce Lewis, all seemingly made out of glass. But it's just I have the same questions that Joe does. It seems like there are more questions about the sport as a whole and specifically the Twins than answers. Um, but it is baseball, and it's a great. I would push back on Joe saying that there's not going to be many people at the ballpark. People still like to go to games, and it's still fun to go to. Target Field's always fun when it's nice out, and they might not win the World Series, but it's fun to go to games and follow the team, and they're going to be competitive. They're not going to be one of the worst teams of baseball, and they have the potential to be a postseason team and make some noise. But it just all comes down to health. There's no big headline grab coming into the season, which I think kind of limits the excitement a little bit. And yeah, it's just there's so much going on this time of year, and it's hard to put your interest into March baseball.
So when we look at the season, I want your expectations. I want you guys to lay out the markers. Not bold predictions yet. We'll save that for the end of the show. When you look at the season and you look at the rosters, you guys have mentioned the bullpen possibly being one of the better in the entire major leagues. The starting rotation looking promising. Now you got to get your stars on the field healthy and keep them healthy throughout the season. But when you look at this season as the Twins come into it in an AL Central that didn't do a whole lot this offseason, where are your expectations? What do you expect them to do? Are they going to get back to the playoffs? Are they going to win the AL Central? What is it? Joe, I'll start with you.
Well, I think a lot of people here locally, I see predictions from Aaron Gleeman and some others out there who they know this team up and down, right? And they're picking the over on the win total. So that likely means at least a conversation come September for the AL Central crown and a spot in the playoffs. The Twins were 70-53 last year, and then they absolutely crapped the bed over the final 30 games or whatever it was. So, I mean, I don't know why all of a sudden are people believing that this roster is going to stay healthy, especially when you already have Royce Lewis coming up lame on a sprint to first base, and you've got half your bullpen injured, not half, but two key bullpen arms in what's his face Brock Stewart and what's his face Michael Tonkin. They're starting the season on the IL. Brooks Lee's got a tight back. The guy's like 25. I should have a tight back. I'm 41. Why does he have a tight back? It's like, this is a problem. It knocked him out for 2 months last year to start the season. So the guys that are healthy are the guys that you know are going to get hurt, Buxton and Correa, and they're going to miss a month at a time. And can we also remember that Byron Buxton, even though he's had a hot week of spring training, and Correa, these are two of the streakier hitters in baseball. Buxton is Eddie Rosario-like, where it's like for a month, he's Jesus baseball, and then for 2 months, he's ass. So I don't know where we get this idea that this lineup and roster is just built to dominate. I don't care how bad the AL Central is. Do people forget how good the Royals and the Tigers were after the All-Star break last season? I got a feeling those two clubs are going to come out swinging hot. They're ready to go. They've got did you see what Kansas City did in the offseason? They went and signed players. The Tigers have Tariq Skubal. He's the Cy Young winner. This guy's a monster. So yeah, expectations, I'm picking the under. I don't know how you can get up for this team. And like I said, I don't even have they even sold out the home opener yet? Do we know? Probably not. I bet there are a lot of empty seats. It could be 80 degrees, sunny, no wind. Beautiful. freaking robins and cardinals flying around. Just beautiful spring weather in Minnesota. And nobody is going to want to go to the home opener because nobody knows the Twins are playing baseball yet. That's what I think is the echo of reality, right? Like we live in Twitter, in the echo chamber of Twitter, and we're seeing all this stuff about, velocity and hard contact and all this stuff. But if you go out into the real world, nobody gives a bleep. That is an echo chamber. It is a microcosm of the whole. So, yeah, I'm not high on it. I don't think they're a playoff team. Like I said, they could be, but I don't think they will be.
As to add on to Joe's point that it seems like no one knows that the home opener is coming up in a week's time or so. On ESPN, you go to the team schedule and it says on the right-hand side, tickets as low as blank, blank, blank. For the home opener, for the Twins, tickets as low as $11. Wow.
Let me tell you something.
You can get in the door for the home opener for $11. It's not great there.
Let me tell you something. Over at our sister outlet, Bring Me the News, where we cover Minnesota news, sports, weather, lifestyle, we're doing a lot of ticket giveaways. And for people that sign up for our, Twins on SI, Vikings on SI, Gophers on SI, Timberwolves on SI newsletters, we're doing a lot of ticket giveaways this year for St. Paul Saints games. We've got great seats, 6 tickets. They're wonderful. You guys can use them too sometimes if you'd like, by the way. But they're nice. And guess what? That's going to be a loaded roster that people are going to want to go see because they're prospects that the Twins will never call up. But you can go see them because they're right here in St. Paul.
I want to get to the prospects in a second.
That's a more impressive venue and roster than what the Twins are working with. It's more exciting, in my opinion. I'd rather go see Corey Lewis and Andrew Morris and David Festa and Zebby Matthews and Emmanuel Rodriguez and Luke Keyshaw and Connor Prelip and all these guys. I'd rather go see them win 100 games in whatever league they play in. Let's roll.
Man, Joe's really bringing the Twins conversation and season preview down. Tony, your expectations for the Twins this season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it just comes down to health. They have the talent to be a playoff team. They have a talent to compete in their division. And I'm not betting on them staying healthy. Like Joe said, we already see Royce Lewis banged up. Seems like Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, it's just a matter of time before they're all in the same suit. And if they are able to stay healthy, I think they can be competitive and win the division. But why would I think that's going to happen if it hasn't happened? So I would be a little pessimistic too heading into the year, and not to, I guess, continue to bring this video down based on what Joe said, but it just comes down to health. I think there's a reason they didn't make many moves this offseason because on paper they have a roster that's able to compete in the division. So it just comes down to health.
Will, what's your expectations? Will the Twins return to the playoffs this season?
I think they absolutely can. And look, I think I have to try to bring the vibes of this video back up for anyone out there who's
tough task,
who's looking for some optimism. And look, I get it. I completely understand. I like Joe's passion on this. I understand the TV thing being in flux. That should be announced today or tomorrow. How teams can watch or how people can watch the Twins on their various cable providers. I get that that's a nuisance. The ownership thing, even these recent developments with the Polads allegedly or apparently turning down an offer. There's a lot of unfortunate kind of off the field stuff hanging over the Twins right now. The fact that they collapsed last year and then didn't do anything in the offseason is not a recipe for fan engagement and excitement heading into the season. But I will push back a little bit and say that this team still has a lot of talent. And I don't think that when Rocco Baldelli and Derek Falvey and people who cover the team talk about having optimism in this team, they're just completely making it up and pulling it out of their ass. I think there are real reasons to believe that with some health, which granted, yes, cannot be counted on for certain players, in certain very important players in the lineup, that this team could absolutely do what the 2023 team did and be a very fun team to watch throughout the season, get to the playoffs, win a playoff series, have a chance Because even with the Dodgers and other teams that spend $300 million on their teams or more looming out there, the thing about baseball that I like at least is that you can get to the playoffs as the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Texas Rangers or whoever, and beat the Dodgers in a playoff series and get to the World Series. And so any team theoretically has a chance in more of a way than an NBA team sneaking into the playoffs does, because you're just never going to win a 7-game series against the peak Golden State Warriors. I really think that this Twins team has a chance to be very exciting. You're talking about Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, as long as they're in the lineup, are two of the better players in the American League. I think they've proven that when healthy. Matt Wallner is going to be your leadoff hitter who can hit the ball 500 feet and throw the ball 150 miles an hour from the outfield. Trevor Larnach, the cleanup hitter, figured out how to actually hit breaking balls last season, and is now coming into the year with some hype. You've got guys like Jose Miranda, Eddie Julian, who are still young players figuring it out, but have already shown some promise at the plate. Newcomers, Ty France just had a great spring. He's healthy after dealing with a heel injury last year. I think this lineup has a chance to be pretty good, and that's not even really the selling point of the team, which is that the pitching, you can go to the ballpark and 60% of the time you're going to see Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, or Joe Ryan, who, when they're on their game, are potential sneaky American League Cy Young candidates. I think Bailey Ober and Ryan in particular have a chance to be really, really good, better than people may think this year. Pablo Lopez has kind of already done it to an extent. But those two guys are very good as well. And then the bullpen, I don't think Brock Stewart or Michael Tonkin being on the injured list really matters. Tonkin's been on 7 teams in the last 5 years. That's a slight exaggeration, but Brock Stewart isn't somebody they got anything from last season. Kind of like Royce Lewis. There's certain guys who you just can't really count on, and I think Brock Stewart is in that boat as well. So I don't think the injuries they're starting the year with are enough to completely throw off the optimism or throw off the season. You've got guys like Griffin Jacks, Joanne Duran, Louis Varland throws 99, 100 out of the bullpen. Justin Topa, for now, is healthy. They brought in Danny Coulomb to actually have a good lefty, unlike Caleb Thielbar last year. Like Jorge Alcala throws 100. This is a team that has a chance to be very interesting. They're not going to blow teams away. They're not going to win 100 games. It's going to be up and down probably, but if they can just get a little bit of luck on the health side, I think they're going to win the AL Central. I think they're going to go back to the playoffs, and I think they might even be able to make a little bit of a run once they get there.
I bet within about 6 weeks, Willie Castro's batting third. And that's not good. I'm just saying. That means there's injuries. That means there's slumps. That means Rocco's toying with the lineup. It's not going to be good, guys. It's not going to be good.
We'll see.
I know injuries have been a conversation, and rightfully so, with the stars that consistently get injured on this squad. So, and Joe, you mentioned the prospects down at the Saints. I mean, the Twins have one of the more stacked farm systems across the majors. So, with a long season and the potential for many injuries throughout the season, who are some of these prospects Twins fans should keep their eyes on throughout the season, Joe?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, Luke Keyshaw, especially if you've got injuries and lack of production at third base and second base, is a guy that you're going to want to watch. He had Tommy John surgery last season, but he was able to finish the year and keep hitting, get a cup of coffee at St. Paul. If he hits the ball like he has his entire life, he's going to be a ready-made big league player in probably short order. So he could be a guy that you call up early in the season if you're not getting production at second base and you have injuries at third base with Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee. So that's one guy right off the bat. Emmanuel Rodriguez is obviously pegged by a lot of people to be a player that can help this season. He's big-time power, high walk rate, good contact guy. It's just been health with him. It's ankle sprains and thumb injuries, and it's the same old story that Twins fans have been dealing with forever. He hasn't had the catastrophic injuries that, Royce Lewis has endured, but he's been, banged up quite a bit. But when he's on, he's really on. And that's why he's a consensus top 40 prospect in the majors. And then the guy I'm most excited about would be, I don't know if I'd say most excited about, but yeah, I think that actually is fair. Is Connor Prelip, the lefty who throws 99. He was a second-round pick in 2022. He's 24 years old. He went to Alabama. 99-mile-an-hour heater, 93-mile-an-hour slider that the Twins director of player development, Drew McPhail, called the most disgusting pitch I have ever seen. And then a great changeup. He's killing opponents on the backfields down in spring training. So they're not going to rush him. You know, he did have Tommy John surgery a while back. They're not going to rush him. He's not a starter, but he's a guy who could come in at some point this season and generate what I would call Francisco Liriano-like vibes. If you go back to 2006 in Liriano, 2.16 ERA, 140 strikeouts in like 120 innings, just masterful. It was peak Twins pitching at the time with him and Johan Santana. Must-see baseball. Never better, in my opinion. That's the only time in my life as a baseball fan that I've said, I don't need to turn the channel when the Twins are pitching. I need to watch when they're pitching. Because normally when I was a kid, you're like, I want to watch, Kirby Puckett bat, or Justin Morneau and Torrey Hunter and Jock Jones and Joe Mauer bat. I want to be watching when the actual guys are batting. The pitching was like, what's Brad Radke going to do for you? Give up a home run to Gerald Williams on the first pitch of the season in 1998? Yeah. And then from there, cruise for 7 innings. I wasn't into that, but I think Prelip's got those Francisco Liriano type vibes and that kind of juice where he can come in and absolutely dominate for multiple innings at a time out of the bullpen. I'm pumped for that, and I think he'll be a name if he stays healthy that makes Minnesota's bullpen, if it stays healthy, really scary. Still not going to be healthy though, so don't get your hopes up.
Having to go back 19 years for good Twins pitching is a little rough there, Joe.
Yeah, well, that's a fact.
I like how Joe is simultaneously like very down on the Twins and very hyped about.
Well, that's the
Connor
truth,
Prelip.
I've
giving you Connor Prelip's entire pitch mix.
Yeah, I don't know that this team can be ruled out. Obviously, if they're healthy, they're dangerous, right? But the health is just paramount, and they've never been healthy. You can't count on them. We're talking about Luke Keeschel, Tommy John surgery, Emmanuel Rodriguez, thumb, hammy, foot, ankle, whatever it might be. I mean, he sprained his ankle on like the first 2 seconds of training or spring training this year. This is just what they do. I don't know what happens with these guys. Royce Lewis. I mean,
Prelip does also fall into that category.
What's that?
So Prelip does also fall into that category. He's barely thrown any innings since college.
Yes. Matt Canarino was like one of those elite prospects for a while. He had those crazy mechanics, and then you watch him throw, and you're like, okay, yeah, it makes sense why his arm breaks every single time he throws a slider, So I don't know what it is. These guys can't stay healthy these days, and that's a whole nother conversation, but it's the only team that's more banged up than the Twins usually is the 2024-2025 Minnesota Wild. And they have nobody left. So this is just the way it is, guys. You got to deal with it. They don't have players who stay healthy. So, yeah, it's, the Wild could go deep in the playoffs this season if they're healthy. The Twins could be really good if they're healthy. If, like Brad Childress used to say, ifs and buts, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas all year round. It ain't Christmas. We're not going to have it all year round.
Well, let's end on some positives, unless Joe's bold prediction is that Carlos Correa gets traded at the trade deadline. Let's end on some positives. Let's get some. I knew you might. Let's get some bold predictions for the Twin season. Tony, I'll start with you.
Although I've been talking about the health, I have a feeling that Byron Buxton will stay healthy this year for the longest time in a while, and I think he puts together one of the best years of his career, and he's in the top 8 of MVP voting, let's say. And I think he has a good year. I don't know about everyone else on the team health-wise, but I don't know. I just have a hunch that he stays healthy this year.
Will?
I like that one. Byron Buxton. He was been healthy this offseason, which rarely is the case. He's usually dealing with something even coming into camp. That's no guarantee that by any means that he's going to stay healthy. But if you just watch the last couple of homers he hit over his last 2 appearances in spring training, I think the guy could be in line for a very big year. I already mentioned him earlier, but I'm all in on Matt Wallner, the Forest Lake native, who is the Twins corner outfielder and new leadoff hitter. And if certain fans haven't watched baseball in a long time, they'd be like, why the heck is that guy hitting leadoff?
That's most fans, by
Um,
the way, because we can't.
True. I don't know if that was an issue until last year, but um, Matt Wallner is not the traditional leadoff mold. He is not a high average guy. He is not fast, but that has also not been a thing in baseball for like 20 years because it was really outdated and stupid. And what matters for your leadoff hitter is being able to get on base and being able to do damage at the plate. And Matt Wallner can do both of those. He's going to strike out a lot, but nobody on the Twins, not Buxton or Correa or anybody, hits the ball as hard as he does. Very few people in the league hit the ball as hard as Matt Wallner does when he makes good contact. He can hit it very, very far. He can get on base as well, so that balances out some of the strikeouts. He's kind of a peak Joey Gallo type of hitter where it's really the three true outcomes. But I think Matt Wallner is going to hit at least 30, maybe 35 plus home runs this season because I think he's going to stay up all year. Over the last couple of years, he's played really well, but he's been streaky and he's gone down to St. Paul at times. I think he's going to be close to an everyday guy. He's not going to always be in the lineup against lefties right away, but in those situations, he can come in as a pinch hitter or whatever. I think he's going to hit a lot of bombs this year and have a very, very good season for the Twins.
I'm with you on Wallner. That's going to be one of my bold predictions is that he hits 40 home runs. It probably won't happen, but it's a bold prediction, right? So if
I like 40. I wasn't quite going to go 40, but that would be
that
puts the bold in it.
I was toying with 45. And I was like, okay, let's get this guy in the lineup for 150 games or 160 games. If he does that and he's batting leadoff, he's probably going to have 500 plus at bats. I think he had like 225 in 75 games last year. He wasn't an everyday player for most of the season. So if he's an everyday player for the entire season and he stays healthy, 500 at bats. If he hits 45 dongs, that's one homer every like 11.7 at bats. If he hits 40 dongs, that's one homer every 12 and a half at bats. If he hits 52 bombs, that's one every Aaron Judge like 9.6 at bats. Aaron Judge led the majors last year with one homer every 9.6 at bats. He hit 58. Shohei Ohtani was in that 11 and a half, one homer every 11.5 at bats range. So I don't think he's going to be quite there. That's why I think 40 is a fair number. If he's hitting a bomb every 12 and a half at bats, that's going to be good. The thing with the leadoff hole, the only way he's going to keep that is if he starts drawing more walks. You know, I think the best comparison for him, the way the Twins want to use him, is Kyle Schwarber, where you have a guy who can hit 40 bombs. He'll strike out twice as much as he walks. The thing with Wallner last year is that he struck out more than 3 times as much as he walked. So he's got to find some more plate discipline or contact and ability to get on base at a higher rate. If he does that, he's the perfect Kyle Schwarber. Hit 220, hit 40 bombs, drive in 100 runs, have a 400 on base percentage, and be a really good catalyst and dangerous option at the plate and get to the dish 5 times a night. That's a good option. That's a good outcome. So I do like the Wallner Schwarber.
The question with Wallner is just, I think it's just how much are they going to use him against lefties in terms of getting to that plate appearance number. But he was 372 OBP last season, was second behind Correa on the Twins. If he can get that up even to like 380,
that would be good. Yeah,
I mean that would be really, really good from your leadoff hitter.
Yeah, my other bold prediction, and I made this prediction last year, and I think people laughed at me, and fairly, because it had no right to be made at the time. But I'm a baseball genius, as you all know. Bailey Ober wins the American League Cy Young. I think I was inspired last year because during spring training, Bryce Harper faced Ober in a game, and he was like, good luck to everybody in the AL Central. And I'm like, okay, if Bryce Harper's saying that, I trust the coffee that he's making on TikTok, and I'm going to trust what he says about Bailey Ober in real life. So I was on the Bailey Ober hype train early last season, and I think he was a legit Cy Young contender during a really torrid stretch of the season. Eventually, he ended up with a 3.98 ERA and a 1.00 whip and good strikeout numbers, but he wasn't able to keep the ball in the ballpark quite enough. So that was his biggest issue. But he's got some absolute dominance to him when he's on. If you go look at his Baseball Savant page and the metrics, it's all red. It's all 80s, 90s. It's like flashing a neon sign on your face saying Cy Young, Cy Young, Cy Young. He's got the ability to do that, and he's one of those guys who throws
Everything
that
except his
super heavy ball, hard to hit. If he stays healthy and is able to maintain these strikeout numbers that he was putting up last season, that dude could definitely win a Cy Young award. His expected ERA was 3.22, and I think there were only like 4 or 5 qualified starting pitchers with better expected ERAs than Bailey Ober in the majors last season. And of course, let's be careful with that because a guy like Paul Skeens is not included in that because he didn't have enough innings to qualify. But you're talking about one of these guys who pitched a lot of innings and was among the best in the game last year. I think he could really push for a Cy Young award this season.
Looking forward to it. It should be an exciting season. Maybe we'll see. I mean, the injuries. Joe tried his best to bring us down.
Taylor's going to win the AL Cy Young, and Matt Wallner's going to hit 40 home runs, and it's not going to be an exciting season.
Yeah, but they're probably not going to happen. It probably won't happen. Bailey Ober will probably get hit by lightning in Florida before they even come back to the Twin Cities. I don't know.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to this all season long, covering this with you guys. Go read their work over at Twins on SI, as well as Vikings, Timberwolves, and Gophers on SI. Do hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It does help us get found. Also notifies you every time Joe has a negative thought about the Twins, which will come up plenty this season, I'm sure. We'll talk to you tomorrow with another topic across Minnesota sports.